Hi there, YouTube. It is I, the one, the only Naudia Exotica. So, it's been a busy couple of days, honestly, and a lot of waking up early. And I'm happy that I was doing it, especially because I keep referencing this, I'm going to go visit my sister, and she always has me up hella early. And I'm assuming that because she just recently had a surgery, that it's going to be even more so. But that's coming up on Monday, which I'm so happy about. Didn't even realize I think it's Labor Day or something, I don't know. But it's been a busy couple of days, so I hope you don't mind that this is a more chill, kind of low maintenance video. There's just no kind of video editing, aside from maybe, trimming and cutting. There's just no video special effects because I just need to chill. My last video of the month in terms of my Patreon tiers of they get 3 videos early, and this is their last early video, and it's about something that's very intimate, so I figured it was only fitting that I am in this intimate setting with you guys. I'm talking about dominatrix work, and in particular, of course, trans dominatrix work, because I'm going to keep it so transparent with you guys. Being that I'm leaving town, I kind of have the itch to maybe post an advert, just to see, for one, if I could do any sort of video things while I'm there, and for two, just again, it's a really good way to kind of just network. I hate to admit to that, but it's true. And back when I was consistently listing adverts, the best time to do so was when I was going to be out of town. I never really traveled to go do any of this. I was doing a lot of in calls, but whenever I would leave town, I kind of made it a point to change my location or whatever have you. It's a whole thing. But when I was doing escorting, it was kind of hand in hand with dominatrix stuff. Now, I'm not trying to say again that all dominatrixes are escorts, and not all escorts are dominatrixes. Plural, the plural of dominatrix. But it was just what worked out for me. And honestly, I found much more sovereignty in a way, doing dom stuff. For me, it was such a foreign concept. When I ran into the concept of doming a man, being a dominatrix, I was probably 18, 19, when it was first brought to my attention that this was something that I could do that men enjoyed. Not all men, of course, and that's totally fine. There's the other thing too about webcam, trying to mesh those two. It was there were some people who are into it, some people who aren't, and I'm very adaptable. I'm all about pleasure in general, but I'll get to that. So I was 18, 19 when I encountered someone who was very into that, and before that, it was the total opposite. My intimate life was extremely opposite. It was a complete 180. I wasn't doing anything like that. I was all about making sure the counterpart was fulfilled, and I never overthought it. And I also never really felt that there should be any sort of different, dynamic. To me, it was just normal. It was just what I was doing. And I have to say, too, an ex of mine, was open to experimenting, which really helped me as well. Kind of gain that, again, I keep saying sovereignty, which is interesting that I keep saying that, and kind of opened doors for me as well in terms of liberation sexually and intimately. I just didn't realize it was, for me, it was all about pleasing, and it was all about lending myself rather than any sort of reciprocation or any sort of, I didn't think that I could be the pinnacle or the focal point. Does that make any sense? It was always the man who was being the focal point. And so I was 18, 19, I'd met this man who was into that, and it just kind of lit a spark within me, because not only was he into it, of course, but he also paid me for my time, and it was an ongoing thing. So when I mentioned about how certain things like this kind of just fell into my lap, aside from the escorting and aside from the dom stuff initially, or not initially, sorry, like profession wise, it really did just kind of fall into place, and it wasn't such a foreign concept. It was just kind of always there. So that kind of just, again, opened my eyes to something totally unique and different. I had no idea that was even a thing. So then come webcam and come escorting, again, it just worked so perfectly because there were certain clients that were very much into it. Say hi to the moth. And that was something that they wanted. That was a service that they wanted. Overall, I have to point out that there is such a sense of almost, so ideally, right, anything, especially like, you know how I am, I'm like a spiritual freak, right? When it comes to intimacy, the most ideal pairing is completely reciprocative. When you know you found the one, you know, in terms of the way that they reciprocate intimate acts. It's less about self and more about fulfillment. And if there's an imbalance there, you have a very interesting kind of situation on your hands, right? It's like dom, that's when it kind of leans into dom sub. If it's too much of that, if it's too much. But so in seeing that it was like I could be kind of the center of someone else's pleasure, does that make sense? It was so, it was like this awakening. It was just like I had no idea that that could even be possible. I didn't even realize. I was so focused on lending myself to a man's pleasure that it just didn't dawn on me. So it was very healing, especially because for so long I was very ashamed of everything I had going on physicality wise. I just kind of had not, up until my ex, I just had not really focused on that. It was more about the other person. Whereas with the dom sub stuff, it's completely opposite. It was so opposite. And it was very intoxicating in a way. Very just, like the power shift was just so thrilling. Especially seeing a very strong, I'll just say one of my clients was a security guard, and he's this very built, strong man, and him wanting that shift of power to take place. Well, for one, it only makes sense, right? Because it's something that you are lacking in your day-to-day mundane life. It's something that you're not getting. You know, you want, and that was like such a strong point that a lot of these guys tried to make, that, oh, you know, in my day-to-day mundane routine, I'm very dominant. It was always, sometimes it was very much for like justification that a man would mention that, but then other times it was just to let me know kind of where they were coming from in terms of what they wanted. But so this strong security man completely shifting and being extremely vulnerable. That's where the healing, I feel like, comes in, is you're allowing someone to be completely and totally vulnerable with with you, and really letting them in on this secretive side of yourself that, again, I always say too, initially with any new clients, I had always said, I'm not going to cause harm to you, physical harm, in terms of like serious shit, all right? Like when it comes down to spanking and stuff, yeah, sure, whatever. Or even other things that are like, but serious, like anything that could potentially cause serious harm, that was a big fuck no for me. But even just the other little things, the certain secretive little things that really gave them joy and really made them feel fulfilled intimately, was what was healing for me. Was like, I'm seeing this person who is, again, by societal standards, very attractive, very muscly, very whatever, completely shift what is looked at as the norm. And that alone was beautiful. Whereas when I was lending myself to these men, this was complete opposite, where they were lending themselves to me. They were entrusting me with things that are, again, looked at as taboo, looked at as like completely, like if you do these certain things, you're not a man or whatever have you. So they were entrusting me to allow them to explore that, to facilitate an environment where they are truly free, they are truly liberated, and truly feel like they're the most sensitive selves, I guess. All in all, that was kind of what was extremely rejuvenating for me, because I had had this taste of these escapades that weren't necessarily bad, but they also oftentimes really didn't include myself like fully, the fullest level of vulnerability on my end. You know what I mean? It was always very superficial. It was very much to get the man off. That was it. And I feel like the dominatrix thing is the total embodiment of owning who it is you truly are, while simultaneously gifting fulfillment to someone else, the counterpart in question. So it just made the most sense. Like, it was just so healing. There was a sense of like renewal and really finding myself in terms of my sexuality, that had so long been suppressed by my own self. Like, I was always just so ashamed. That's the best word I can come up with. And this was worship. This, in a way, was worship. So it's obviously very devoid of shame. It's propping up. It's admiring. It's admiration. So that's why I feel like it would just be, it's easy for me to really tap into it, even despite not being on webcam anymore, not seeing any clients anymore in person. It's like no question, of course, like I would tap into this again, a lot of my video call clients that I see, I guess you could say regularly, yeah, monthly, regularly, weekly, whatever, aren't necessarily in that kind of realm. A lot of them kind of had fallen off that I was seeing that really loved the Dom stuff, which people come and go, but my regular, consistent clients that I still have video sessions with aren't really necessarily into that. So with this whole like trip to my sister's, it's not necessarily that I'm gonna go scurry off and whatever, but it's more so just kind of, again, putting myself out there, but in that same vein, right? It's just something so easily embodied for me, and something that I can really tap into, while simultaneously I don't like for my intimate life to look one certain way. I love it all, right? I'm adaptable, but I'm also all about pleasure. So overall, dominatrix work was extremely fulfilling and it really healed me inside. So yeah, I never spoke about this on my YouTube before. Only because I don't want to cross any boundaries with the YouTube gods. So, but I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that I hope that it's received well, and that I can put up more videos pertaining to this topic as well. You know, again, it's just like that's what my YouTube is. It's just a melting pot of different topics, and this could be another one of them. So, you guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or video requests, feel free to email me. My email is nadiaexotica@gmail.com. Follow all my links at nadiaexotica.com. And also don't forget to read my blog, which is nadiascuriotrove.com. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can make your way over to patreon.com/nadiaexotica. And until the next video, you guys, you will be hearing from me very soon.